Is this the water?
No, it's a whole new thing.
Hot chicks dancing.
Yes, that's what I need.
Yeah.
Okay, we are almost now. We are live, and people will be able to watch us. And I'm in the green room with Pat Johnson. Oh, and Pat, you were my third guest when I started this 8 weeks ago, and now you're 90, like 97th again. So you're coming back because you've got more stuff to share and to tell. So
Do I?
I'm hoping you do.
I
Otherwise,
never liked you, so I'm leaving. I'll see you.
you know, I was hoping you got some stories. Otherwise, the show's dead,
Yeah, I can do mime.
right? Um, so the last time we talked, you told a story about going to take photos at the record store down on in Haight, and Michael Jackson was going to show up, and then all of the glass and everything broke, and
Yeah.
your friend
Joel
now
Newman.
Joel
Joel
Newman,
Newman.
he was
You
there.
can call him the Shookman. Shookman.
The Stuckman.
Shook. Schuck. Shookman.
Oh,
The Shook.
Shookman.
Yeah.
Okay. And he has a picture of himself standing there that you took of him before all this happened on his
Yeah.
Facebook page. So
Yeah.
he said, go look at that because that was just before all the stuff that happened that you told the story of the last time we were on, how the glass broke and everybody piled in on you. And
Yep.
see, now I know you've got a lot more of those kinds of stories. So, um, now you've been going through your books or all your photos, and you're finding all these new things, and I'm going to pull up one right off that was on your Facebook page. I found a good image of this, and this is the picture you have of Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh yeah, I love him.
You're right.
Yeah.
So when did you take that picture?
It was in the 80s. I'm really bad with dates. I always have to look it up. But a friend of mine put the show together, and so it was at Bill Graham Civic, I think. And
Hmm.
you go you stand on the side and watch Rodney Dangerfield tell his jokes, and you're laughing. And I didn't even take any pictures of him live. And then back, I had to get some backstage shots, and Rodney comes out in his robe, no pants on, slippers and socks, with a cigarette. Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, it's like, oh my God, you loved it. It was just really cool. It was a great moment. No pants on.
Right. So was in person, was he the same as he always was when I'd see him on Johnny Carson and all that? Was he like that all the time?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because, I wasn't in his living room, sitting around. He was off stage, and you're a performer, so he came off stage and he was doing a meet and greets, and so you probably still stay on a little bit, but less. It's more like like you performers or whoever they are, they do their performance, and then they come down and then they walk out and they're not really on, but they're not really off either. You know what I mean? He was just kind of like, yeah, sure. What, you know what I mean? So,
Well, there was something about him. It didn't matter how he delivered it. It just was funny because of his voice and his
oh
mannerism.
yeah,
So it kind of
yeah.
like,
He
uh,
was the last of that. Like
what was that?
he was
Can,
the last of that breed, in my opinion.
yeah,
The old suit and tie, and Shecky Green, Henny Youngman. Hey, take my wife, please. But
right.
50 of them, and 10 of them will make you laugh.
Yeah.
I shot Joan Rivers, and I can't even tell you the jokes on the air, but I shot her twice for the Raz Room at the Castro Theater, and I mean almost the whole time I had to I put the camera down and belly laughed. You know, she just started from the first line to the end, and it was some of the most vile, racist. Oh yeah, I mean, you know, jokes, but they weren't nasty racist. They were only she could get away with it. You know, really
Mm,
funny. I mean, put the camera down and hold your side laughing. Anyhow,
okay. And then you've got a picture of, and
oh,
this is uh, the Persuasions at Tower Records.
wait a minute, I'm gonna drink of water. What'd you say?
The Persuasions at Tower Records.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you know who the Persuasions were?
Yeah,
They were
I forget.
fabulous.
Yeah,
I think
there was a whole. Go ahead.
their big hit. I think was Women and Drinking. You know, and I was hired by the record company, and they were promoting their album, and on the album was Papa Ooh Mau Mau, a song that was classically famous in Cleveland by the Rivingtons. And normally with those things, they walk in, sit down, and sign autographs, and there's a line. They just walk in and start going, start singing, and everyone's like blown away. It was really cool. I love the Persuasions.
They were the same time as the Stylistics and the Temptations and all those all came out about the same time, right?
Similar, but they were a cappella,
Oh, see,
right?
I'm
They
all
they they had no music. They did an album. The Persuasions do Frank Zappa
oh my, I got
a
to look that up.
for a cappella. Yeah, the Persuasions do Frank Zappa. Yeah, there's totally a cappella.
Man.
Poor
Okay.
guy.
And then I'm going to look that up while we're looking. I've also found this Pauly Shore. I mean, he's such a kid in this picture. I didn't even recognize him.
Nah, he was not. He wasn't a nice guy. A couple years they had the NAMs or NARM or something in San Francisco, record merchandisers or something. And, of course, I was one of the top photographers around, so all the record company guys or whoever would hire me. For an example, uh, Columbia Records was my client. And at one of those things, Tommy Mottola comes out, the president, and says, "Oh, I want to introduce our newest act, and it's Mariah Carey." And he's introducing her in San Francisco at the NARM, yeah. And so another time I had to photograph oh, what's his name? The guy that plays in Iron Man. What's his name? The actor.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Downey.
Robert Downey Jr.
He was probably the biggest prick I've ever worked with. Not even close. No
Really?
one comes. If he's up here, no one even close. Not even remotely close. He
Are
was he
you
was a junkie, I guess, and my job was hired to photo by his people to photograph him all day, going around, and he treated me like I was a shit on his shoes. I've never to this day watched one of his movies. I never will.
so
Narm and
Mariah
so
Carey
Pauly Shore
was
was at one of those things, and
okay.
you're cutting out a little.
And yeah, the internet is it's iffy. But uh when Mariah Carey was there, how old was she? She had to be just a teenager or early 20s
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. I mean, the pictures on it's somewhere. I mean, it's on my website or whatnot. But it's, oh yeah, she's really young and cute. And
I'll look for it while I'm here. Now, when I try to get pictures off of your website, they only come out as thumbnails, so I can't really use them.
mm,
So when I take photos off of your Facebook, then I get the full size JPEG, so I can show those pretty easy.
Yeah, she's there, but it's way back.
I would have to dig. Um, all
Yeah,
right.
it's really
So,
cute. But Pauly Shore was he was a he wasn't he wasn't a nice guy. He was he just like everyone assumes Pauly Shore is. He was. Does that
right.
make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm fascinated by this Robert Downey thing because I'm trying to picture him, and he must have been a young kid at that time too.
I guess it was in probably the 90s, you know. Yeah,
Man,
my job was go. I don't even have the negatives. I think he was such a piece of shit. I when I was done, I threw the negatives away, and uh, not even close. He's the other guy that's very similar to that, and I hope you hear this. Is Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind? There's another piece of garbage.
really?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh, what?
So I'll tell you the story because I can't stand the guy.
Okay,
Backstage at the Bammys, and they had their one single, kind of like they're coming to take me away, ha ha he he, their stupid one hit wonder.
right.
And so I have my studio set at the Bammys, and people they bring them off the stage into my set. There's a private spot, no one can get in there. The musicians, I had beer, and like I told you before, like people would hang out and hey, they haven't seen each other. This guy walks in and starts giving me like this like rock star attitude. And I'm standing there with my son, my nephew, my wife, Denise, and whoever behind me. And I look at the guy and go, "Hey, pal, I don't want to take your friggin' picture, so why don't you can it?" And he stops and he goes, "What?" I go, "I don't even want to take your picture. Hit the road, you know." And, and he goes, well, I'm sorry. I was just doing my rock star thing. I go, "Well, don't do it anymore." You know, when you deal with Sting and David Bowie and Michael Jackson, they treat you like equals. And this schmuck, who's a social gadfly in San Francisco, has one hit wonder and thinks he's Elvis Presley. Hit the road.
Right.
True. Don't like him.
That's funny. So there
I don't
are
really dislike very many people, but the few I dislike, I dislike.
that is true. I have not known you to not to dislike most. You get along with almost everybody,
Well, yeah,
and
I mean, people say to me, I remember when I was first starting out, you know, I come from Brook Park, Ohio. I'm semi blue collar. I think I just got told this last time. I don't come from a lot of money, so I had to make a living. I mean, I had to make, and so somebody'd say to me, Jeff would say to me, you'd say to me, "Hey Pat, will you do my wedding?" Well, sure. I'll give you a great price, and then I make a little profit, and I'd buy a lens, a Hasselblad lens. There's these other art guys at the time that came out of the art schools. Well, I wouldn't do a wedding. Well, they're all gone. They're insurance men. And so then people say, well, you shoot all this stuff, hip hop and all that. You know what? I like everything I photograph. I like it. I mean, I mean, I was talking to somebody about this band called No Sisters. Do you remember them?
no,
They were a punk band, four Toad brothers in the punk scene, new wave scene in San Francisco. And out in front of South Park, where my old studio was, for years there was a dumpster, and I would just take all my outtake photos, this reject prints, and throw them in the dumpster for free. And I'd come out there one night, and these two of these nerd No Sister punk band guys are going through my photos, laughing at the top 40 bands. And I called them on it. I go, "Hey, who do you think you are? You're making fun of these guys. You think every one of these guys didn't want to have a hit record? You think they all, every one of these guys you're making fun of started out and they tried real hard, and some of them didn't get a break, but son of a b, they're still making a living playing music, and they're doing what they love. And how dare you ridicule them? And I just talked to someone like 3 days ago about email back and forth about those four brothers, and they're all schmucks. They did, big star nobodies. They never made it. They're all like losers. You know. Man, I'm
Oh,
into the negative phase. You know,
so uh, you hang on to all of your negatives, all of them.
well, yes and no. Um, I have file cabinets, one, two, three, four, six, seven giant file cabinets, 4 levels high, full. I have my job numbers are, I don't have any right in front of me, I normally do, but
What?
I'm on job number 900 or you know, something like that, 900,000. So I've shot millions of pictures. So twice I've had to do purges, or I'd go through and I'd get rid. So I got rid of. I wish I wouldn't have looked in hindsight, but I needed the space. I got rid of all the top 40 bands, all the corporate jobs.
Did you throw mine away? You threw mine away, didn't you?
Not the ones in the last 15, 20 years, but in the 80s, yeah. And people contact me. Can they get, and they're gone.
Yeah.
I have no space, So I keep, so I, from the 95, I've kept everything. But then when I moved from the 2,000 square feet to 1,000, I did another purge.
Mm.
But I kept the important shots,
Right.
yes,
And yeah, I haven't kept any of my stuff at this point in my life. I went back through, like you, all of my old band stuff, all the old tapes and stuff. I don't need to hear that. It just went in the garbage. I
It's I regret it to this day. If you want to get rid of any guitars, uh, you can send
like
them
the
to
one
me.
like the
Yeah,
one I left
yeah,
at your
for
studio
free.
for a year.
Well, how long was it here for? Like 8 months.
Something like that.
You didn't mind. I used it to play. I went to a softball game and didn't have a bat, so I used that
Oh,
your
is that
guitar.
what that dent was?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I went 2 for 3 too. I didn't want to give it back.
All right. So I noticed you talked about job numbers. So you said, what can we talk about today? Because we actually had a lot of great stories the last time about Michael Jackson and Sting and all that stuff, and Ringo. But you're putting together a book,
Yeah,
and
finally.
you're and I noticed on the stuff you sent me to show, and I'm going to make one of these go solo here. So this is Joe Walsh. Now I noticed these are called their job number, like JB, and then with a number on some of them on your notes.
I don't know what that means.
Job, but I was thinking it was job number. So
Page number.
oh, okay. I thought that on one of the emails you sent me there was it said job number or something on there. So you
Maybe so. No, they're going like this is one of them. It's
right,
going
that
in.
I'm going to
That's
show that. I can pull that up here.
page 5. What
Okay.
I have all these really cool photographs, and I may have told you this, so I hope I'm not repeating myself. But
Not at
when I
all.
first when I first started, I consciously did not look at any other photographers. I didn't go look at all the Irving Penn books and all the blah blah blah, so I could pick up pointers. I didn't want to learn anything from those guys. I wanted it to be my own. Now
Right.
that doesn't mean what I've done has never been done before. That's not true. But looking at all my stuff now, it's mine. Those are my visions. Like there's wonderful photographers that are good friends of mine that are major stars and they do major beautiful portraits. I don't do beautiful portraits. I don't. Every shot I try and make is different. So if you follow my thing, so I have all these really cool photos, but what people have been telling me is what'll make my book really fun for everybody is the fun stories, writing little funny stories like the Jeff, like the Jackson story to go with it. So you've got these really, all my photos, I want to have some sort of a twisted edge to it or humor if I can. The guys I looked up to were this guy named Ouija, who was like this weird 40s and 50s police photographer in New York City, um, Richard Avedon, and the early Kinks, Beatles, that stuff. That's the stuff I love. Vidal Sassoon, Swinging London, in New York City. So
Yeah.
anyhow, so the stories are really good. What? the pictures are fabulous, but the stories are what takes it to another level.
Right. So, for example, I put this Jeff Beck uh, back up, and Oakland Coliseum, 1979. Jeff Beck is one of the guitar. This is a little story, and then listen to under
Underside.
ways down. He is the next step link way to Led Zeppelin. Um, Two of the anthems of my early days are his screaming version of "I'm a Man" and the understated "Train Kept a Rolling."
Yeah, but
So
the
there's
the last two lines are the key to this whole thing.
okay. Late versions of the Yardbirds have Beck and Jimmy Page alternating on guitar, forming the Jeff Beck group. With them, unknown Rod Stewart produced some awesome work. Again, listen to Shapes on Jailhouse Rock. But the
Oh my God, it's cut off. Does it say? Does it end with Jeff Beck looking at me?
so I there's a page two. There must be a page two because I
Must be
only
cut
get
off with. Yeah, because this is just a little blurb. The whole
right.
point of that story is, and it looks like it's not on it. It blows my mind. But so I'm hired by the Epic Records to get photos of him, and he's backstage talking to Neil Sean, and I go up and go, "Hey man, can I get some shots at you?" He looks like me, like I'm a piece of shit. He goes, "Rrrr." He like I'm annoying, but I got the shots. That's the story. The
Okay.
other stuff is like fluff building up to the story that's not even on it. That's good to
Okay.
catch that one.
So this is what we'll do. I'll pull these up and sort of start you on the story. Then you can finish it. And this is what anybody would get if they got the book because
Yeah, I think
you.
this is the only one that did that. By the way,
Oh, okay.
now I
Um,
remember one of my
so
early
then you've
attempts.
got Grace Slick, and
I'll get it.
yeah. So
Yeah,
let
everything's on this one.
okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. That's good. So this photo shoot was for the cover of BAM magazine. Having Grace Slick as a photo subject was always very cool. We worked together a number of times. I love her. Grace was smoking hot. She was pretty hot back in those days. Yes, yes, yes. I wanted to create mystery to show her strength and beauty. So I had one of my assistants on the floor gently blowing cigar smoke with backlighting to enhance the smoke. I asked, they didn't have smoke machines in those days, right?
Yeah, they did, but
Oh,
they weren't very good. They didn't do. They didn't do what I wanted them to do.
so I asked Grace to make some cool faces, and these poses make this one of my classic images. Oh, those eyes. And so now you're seeing the smoke behind. So your assistant was blowing the smoke, and Grace was doing those, laying on the floor, blowing the smoke up behind her, and she was making those big beady eyes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
No, uh, he had to lay on the floor, and you couldn't blow the smoke. You had to just let it roll out of your mouth to stay, and then it waft up.
So he would
Really,
have to suck in a lot of smoke and then just hold it and let it float out. Basically, that's that what you're saying.
yeah. Ken, I posted this picture about a week ago. Ken, who was the guy who lives. Yeah, he goes, oh, cough, cough, cough. He didn't inhale it. You just kind of fill your mouth with it and just let it drift out. But it
Oh yeah.
but it was like cigars. Yeah, gave the perfect smoke. And the
Okay.
thing about that story is you tell how that particular story. You tell them how you took the photo, so someone can get it. Feel
Right.
like they're there.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you see the photo and then you tell it's interesting and you don't just look at the picture.
Yeah.
And then, I have to admit, I don't know who YNT is.
Oh, yesterday and today, they're
Oh,
they're a legendary Bay Area band. Legendary. Dave Meniketti. Oh, they're early rock and roll metal. YNT, man, people love them. They still three of the four guys are dead now, but Meniketti still performs with YNT as YNT. Yeah, they did a lot of albums.
Was that in the 70s?
Yeah, 77 is when 76.
Wow.
They're still doing it, yeah.
Okay, so then you've got the Bull. I did that. I think of Manute Bull and then say the Bulls, but the Warriors picture, and that had Run TMC, right?
I don't, yeah, probably, maybe. I don't know if that does it. I did run TMC as well, but again, it's a long story for you to read, but the gist of that story is they had, the Warriors at that time, owned by I forgot the owner's names, just escaped me. Names escaped me. Wonderful guys, wonderful organization. Don Nelson was the man at the coach, and so they practiced, hard practiced. Then they went in and changed and put on these the loose clothing like in that photo because it was for Kodak, poster for Kodak. Then they went and put their real uniforms on and did the formal. We're doing the formal shot, but before we did the formal shot, every member of the organization at the time came in and got in a big giant group shot. That's really cool. If you were like not the janitor, but basically everyone that worked for the Warriors got in this giant photo. Then after that, we do the official team photo, and we're doing the official team photo, and Rod Higgins goes like this. His eyes roll up in his head, and he starts shaking, and he falls backwards on the back of his head, and it's goes bam. Here's this big smash, and this I had to set up a 10-foot tall by 20-foot long wide backdrop, paper and sandbags and poles and clips. And I'm watching this whole thing go woo, 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 woo. Right? I'm waiting for it to fall on these millionaire players and the owners. And Manute Bol just reaches up and goes like this and grabs it. And I go, oh, God. Then I run up, and I kneel down. And there's Don Nelson, Tom Abdenauer, who was a trainer, and Rod Higgins is like still sort of shaking, and I'm like this, and as he stops, he's done. He's safe. Don Nelson turns to me and goes, points at me. I swear to God, looks me right in the eyes and goes, "Your fault."
Oh
And I
no!
go, "Oh Jesus!" And he looks. Then yeah, and then he stops and he winks at me. That was Nelly, and he winks at me like he's busting my chops. What that true story. Your fault. He goes. I go.
It's your
Oh
fault.
no! What do you? I'm thinking. And then he winked at me and smiled.
Oh
Yeah, true story. But those are the
man,
stories the little stories that go that, and some of them don't have stories. I'll just I have a backstage shot of Jay Z, and it just says Jay Z backstage at Camille Summer Jam. Not all of them, but most of them have stories.
well, yeah, little one, and the one you did of the Doobie Brothers here. That one's up. There's a little blurb. This was taken at Francis Ford Coppola's ranch, uh,
Yeah,
and we used his ranch for a couple photo shoots, and that is a cool location. Um, and then they brought their bikes, their Harleys, and their logo was sort of like a Harley looking logo, right?
yeah,
The Doobie Brothers, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Doobies are great people. They're great people. But how? Yeah, the point that was so cool. You go to Francis Ford Coppola's. Basically, it's sort of his home. And then you go drive way back, and there's some sort of like animation or something back there, and we found the cool wall. We used them. We did it twice. We went back later, another time, a year or two later, with the Michael McDonald version of the group. But yeah, it was just so cool to be in Francis Ford Coppola's home in this. He didn't come out and go, "Hey Pat," you never saw him, but still, if you're living in Baltimore or living in Oklahoma, say Cleveland, Francis Ford Coppola's home is like some beyond reality in a sense, and it is to us. We live here.
Right.
Anyhow,
When you get out to the wine country and get up there and you go to those wineries, I mean, they're really cool places. I would love to live in one of those homes.
oh no kidding. I mean, yeah, this wasn't even his winery. This was where he lived.
Oh,
Right. It wasn't Coppola's winery. It was Coppola's home. And then we drove in and you drove way back because way back in this down this dirt road to some Michael Coates put it together and he told me what it was. We went to some like an animation studio area or so I forget what it was. Wasn't that? But yeah, that's what makes it cool.
so the Doobie Brothers, when they took this picture, was like right around their Talos Street and all of that, right? And
Not a clue.
like listen to the music and when they were first coming out and really.
No, this was the Doobie Brothers came out, and then Tommy Johnson got ill, and he left the band, and then they got Michael McDonald to come in, and then Tommy Johnson came back, and this is in the '90s,
Oh,
so I think the '70s is when Listen to the Music came from, but I don't know, I don't know that much. One of the things I don't know about is the history of these people that I work with. I really don't know.
oh, okay. But you wouldn't necessarily need to know any of that stuff because you're just shooting the pictures and you got a story behind taking
Yeah,
that.
and you know their music. Yeah,
Right,
but
right.
yeah, and I know all their music because I probably shot the Doobie Brothers 35 times, at least, and lots. They played every year at Bruce Cohn's charity event because he was their manager, and there was 30 charity events, and so I knew their music. I just didn't know what album that was on.
Right, right.
Now, when you're kids, the albums that are on because you're the kids. I mean, the Rolling Stone album, one of the first 10 Rolling Stones albums come on, and you know the next song because you're 15, 17 years old. But when you're 50, 40.
Right. And I think, did we show, you have a picture of Mick Jagger, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know if we showed that the last time we were on, but you can find it. Your website is up here. People can find it on your website. Um, but the one, another guy that I'm not real sure I know is this, um, Dr. Mastermind.
Oh, that's a classic. That's a classic. I'm assuming the picture's up,
Yes, it is.
right? Um, I did a lot of work for Mike Varney in the early days, Shrapnel Records. Mike was amazing. Mike would find these shred metal guys and put them out there. And the Dr. Mastermind was, the, Matt McCourt, I believe. And so Mike Varney collected ventriloquist dummies, and I had weird stuff like that. So I hung all these ventriloquist dummies behind it to make it look like Twilight Zone dummies coming to life, and then the guy goes it was like early shred metal. You know what I mean?
So
That's all I can say about it. The thing about that is the setup and the cool image.
where did you get all of those dummies?
Well, I have a bunch of them. I have toys. I mean, for an example, Topo Gijo. You know what I mean? I got like, I got four Topo Gijos right there. You know what I mean? I got in over in the other part of the studio. I got ventriloquist dummies of Groucho Marx and Laurel and Hardy. And over here's and then Mike Varney collected them too. So between his collection and my silliness, and I used to be my late wife and I used to we did we were professional puppeteers,
I didn't know that.
before I started in photography. I actually did a puppet show for the Simeonese Liberation. Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, we went over. If you remember the history, there was the lawyer on Dolores Street who went to jail for contempt of court for like 9 months because he wouldn't say anything. We didn't know who these people were. I mean, a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's go over there." We never really got hardly any money for doing it, but we had a big stage and these ventriloquist dumb doll mouths, and my guy was Izzy Fenorki, and he would we had loaded joints, and that was kind of Jeff Beck's Boogie was our theme music, and we would do this puppet show for this. And this is actually completely off the subject. But we do a puppet show for all these people, and mostly women and kids, but a year and a half later, it's Ms. Moon and those people. and this woman starts after we're all done. Anyway, I come up with a main story, and the main story was Hansel and Gretel, and I had a Groucho Marx puppet that's over there. I still have it, and it was like the voice off the side of the stage was the mother. Get rid of the kids, because that's the puppet I had. I didn't have, you know what I mean. So the story's over, the show's over, and all these people are come up thanking us. And there's one woman, I'll never forget. Trina is her name. She was an underground cartoonist. Never forget this. She comes up and starts bitching at me because I was offending motherhood and sisterhood. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm Pat Johnson from Cleveland. I'm Irish Italian. I'm thinking, fuck you, And I look at her and go, no problem. I'll change it for you. Give me $75 and I'll go buy a new puppet and I'll change it for you. But a year and a half later, it wound up being the women from the Simeonese Liberation Army. True story.
Oh,
Anyhow, that has
man.
nothing to do with my photography, but
No.
I was also a high school baseball coach. I took my high school baseball team, International High School in San Francisco, 11 players on our team, took them to the state championship,
No
2008.
kidding.
First year, yeah, first game when I took over the team, first game I took over, we lost 35-0. And
Oh,
three and a half, 4
30.
years later, 35-0, and I look and go, well, so it took us a while, but 4 years later, we built the team up and 11 players, and we went to the state champion, Division 5, but nonetheless, we went to, Humboldt College baseball team and played some Catholic school for the Northern California state championship. Yeah, I mean, I'm a crazy son of a bitch.
Did you play baseball as a kid?
No, football.
Did did you just learn baseball out of
Playing softball.
playing softball?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My
So,
buddy Todd built a softball team in Chick. They're both gone now. In like 1974, the Front Street Phantoms, named after a bum on South Front Street in San Francisco. And I just started playing softball, fell in love with it, and I'm still playing to this day. And we're still the Phantoms.
nice. So,
Yeah,
the scene that came to my mind when was in Bull Durham. There's a scene where the coach comes in. Baseball is a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, and you catch the ball.
that's
It's
pretty
really,
much it.
yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'd get these guys that volunteered, and they would be like the ball or bully guys, and the kids would be warming up. These are young men. They're not baseball junkies, and some of them. And the guy missed a ball, and he go take a lap. Whoa, hey pal, we don't make these kids take a lap because they missed the ball. That ain't how this game. That ain't how I run this show. I run this show, you know, positive. And these kids would jump with it, and they're millionaires, billionaires, children, some of them. They would jump through plate glass windows for me because I treated them like a dog, like a man. If I got angry and I kicked the bucket, balls, I go, oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lose my, oh that's okay, coach. Instead of hey, shut up and move over there. That never worked that way. Never did, and it worked for me.
Well, I believe the same as what you just said. You can get more out of people by treating them nicely and with positive interactions with them. You can get more out of them and more respect, and they'll work harder for you than if you try to get angry at them and punish them.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's who would have known? I didn't know that you took kids
Oh
to.
yeah,
I mean, that was a high school baseball team.
high school varsity baseball team. Yeah, national,
Man,
sort of the French American school on downtown San Francisco. Yeah. And I
jeez.
did the Culture Club photo, which you may have shown, and I put them in the Phantom uniforms. So I
Okay,
got
wait, wait,
one of the
wait.
guys in the
I think we showed that the last time, but let
yeah,
me
and Boy
find that.
George is one of the guys in the band. I put him in the Phantom uniform, holding the Cleveland Indian hat. I'm loyal to
Okay.
my friend.
Okay, I'm gonna find that photo and pull it up. But in the meantime, let's find another story for you to tell.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Uh,
the thing about this is my book, people have been telling me for years, where's your book? Where's your book? A, I'm not a rich kid, so I don't have the money. B, it takes time. C, I don't have the money to hire somebody to do all this stuff. Now with this pandemic we're in, instead of losing my mind like everyone, like, I've been digging up all these old photos and posting them, and then I'm doing pages of my book, and I've got 182 pages done. I'm going for 200.
wow. Hey,
Yeah,
while you're telling the story, is that Boy George photo on your Facebook page?
probably.
Well, there's a
Where?
because
If
I
you,
know
I,
I can get
I
it
can
off.
probably go get one here if you want to hold. If you want to, I don't want to leave an empty screen though.
Oh no, well that's okay. I actually have it, but I can't get it off. I can only get a thumb drive, a thumb
I'll,
shot, I
I'll,
think.
I'll run.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk. I'm going to just tell a story while we're waiting for Pat to come back. The last time I was at Pat's studio, I left a guitar and he told me he sold it on eBay when I went to go back and
Boy,
get
this is classy, like the Johnny Carson show, big empty stage.
right. All right. So you're there's a little bit of reflection of me there, but yeah, they can kind of see it. I'm still trying to scroll through and find it. That's a great photo, though. That's your kids' baseball team.
No, my softball
I
team.
mean, That's your softball team.
No, this is Culture Club, and I put the black guy in my Phantom uniform.
Oh, okay. So that I
That's
got.
Boy
Oh,
George.
okay. It's making sense now. I'm getting it. I'm a little slow, Pat. I don't know if you've ever realized that about me, but I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed.
No, everyone, my children, my girlfriend, they all tell me I talk and I assume people know what I'm talking about. And then I get frustrated. What do you mean you don't know what I'm talking about? Well, you weren't very clear. So I'm sure it's my fault.
Oh wait, no, no. I've just found this picture of Gregg Allman, but he's standing in front of the backdrop that I use for one of my band photos.
Oh, the big swirly one?
Yeah, except for this is black and white,
Yeah.
and it's a great shot, but I it'll take me a minute to get it up. So I'm still trying. Let me pull up another one. I want to know about Narda and this picture you have of Narda.
Narda Michael Walden. I've known him and worked for him for, man, forever. He is the nicest guy. He was in the Mahavishnu Orchestra with John McLaughlin. I
Yeah,
mean, wow, right? I mean,
yeah,
the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and he has a recording studio up in in Marin, and he's produced so many major people. I mean, like Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, James Brown, on and unending. Aretha Franklin, New Kids on the Block, and he is the nicest, most fun-loving character that you could come across. No, I'm sure he has an ego, but you never see it. It's just he's always got a smile. When they redid the Bammies last year, brought it back after it was 10 years. Neil Sean came out with Narda because Narda's a drummer,
right.
uh, and he came out. It was Neil Sean and Narda Michael Walden, and Neil just ripped it, man. And oh wow, and Narda was ripping it. And they played like two songs, and then Sammy Hagar came in and did a couple songs with him, and it was like so cool to see Neil just letting go, and with Narda, and then Sammy Hagar came in, but it was just seeing Neil Sean, who's I think he's if he was English and was would be he'd be a god, but he's San Francisco and Journey and I think if Journey was English, they would be like super. They are superstars, but they'd have more local. You know what I mean? So Neil just could let go. It's like watching. It's like wow to see because Neil's one of the best guitar players in the business. But you don't really know it because Steve Perry's voice may overpower him.
Right.
You know? But it was cool. Nard's a cool dude. I like him a lot.
And didn't he play drums on a lot of that Whitney stuff?
Probably.
He probably did.
Yeah. Walter
And
Afanasieff was a producer, you know.
yeah, they were mostly Bay Area guys,
Yeah.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
And
Scott. Yeah.
I don't know if people really knew that those guys were behind a lot of Mariah, Whitney were Bay Area guys.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, I did sound for a gig, and Walter Asanafiev, I never really say his name right, but he was the MD of this song for a corporate thing, and just being around that group of people was it sent chills down my
Oh
spine
yeah.
because of what they've accomplished with all of that music.
Oh yeah. Preston Glass, Skylar Jett,
Yeah,
Walter. I mean, just on and on. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
And Nard, I love Narda. He's a really good man.
Okay, so we've got now. I'm going to put this up. Dennis Wilson.
Whoa.
And that he's looking kind of gnarly in this photo.
Well, it's a great story. I'll tell you the story. But first off, if you squint your eyes, who's he look like?
He looks like Barry Gibb.
Charles Manson.
No,
Think about it. And he hung out with Charles Manson.
no. You know what? Now that you mention it, yes,
See it? I,
yes.
that was hanging in an art gallery, and some mother lady came up and asked him to take it down because it was freaking her out. They didn't take it down, but it's a true story.
Holy cow!
he he it was again with Joel Newman, the Shookman. So Epic Records, and he was promoting his album Pacific Ocean Blue, and so we were going around to radio stations promoting the record, and so Dennis was a really nice, Southern California sort of hippie dippy hippie guy, sort of guy, really nice guy, and we're in the limo in those days when they actually tried to promote their artists, and me, Joel, and Dennis are in the back of the limo driving just from San Francisco to San Jose, probably going to KSJO or KOME. And Dennis goes, "Hey, you guys want to smoke a joint?" And we go, "Nah, no thanks," And just like this, the scene in a Taxi, if you've ever seen it, where Jim eats the brownie and turns into Jim. And Dennis Wilson goes, he's so like a normal guy. He's like, smokes a joint and then goes like this, and turns into that. And Joel and I go, "Whoa," and he became this like strange, brooding guy.
Oh man, and that's
Yeah,
how he looks. Looks like Charles Manson.
yeah, yeah, doesn't it? And he
Yeah.
he hung out with Charles Manson. He wound up supposedly Charles Manson and the girls were living at Dennis's place or something, and he actually punched Charles Manson in the face and throw him out.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
that whole thing was that Charles Manson wanted to be a rock star, and Terry Melcher was the producer, and that was Terry Melcher's house, and Terry Melcher and Dennis Wilson were the best buddy. Blah, 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 blah. It's a whole.
Did you see that movie, the Hollywood?
Yeah, yeah.
Is any maybe some of that kind of involved around,
Oh yeah, it's all the same except for the ending.
except for the ending, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now everybody, when this book comes out, I want a signed, autographed copy from you personally, and
Thank
I'll
you.
whatever you sell them for, I'll buy it, and I want an autographed copy.
Thanks. I'm you know, after 50 years later, I'm at the beginning stages, but I've got 182 pages. I've got a really close friend who's editing my stories. And so then we got to find, we're going to get somebody, the graphic designer to put the book together, get a couple people to write some things, get a forward written. And I don't know where we're going to go from there, but I've got a friend of mine, Mo, who's kind of helping me behind. I don't know whether we're hoping to get it published, but doesn't matter. If it's something that it does matter, but realistically, it's all these pictures and all my whole life. It's this, it's finally, I can finally look at it and see, the flow of my madness, sort of,
Well,
But
8 weeks ago or so, when we first talked, and we were kind of going, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" Look at what is coming out of this. Even though before we started, we were both talking about how a lot of times we just feel like, ugh. But what's coming out of it is the time we have, and you going through all your photos and putting this together, and
yep.
you're getting a chance. Maybe if this wouldn't have happened, you wouldn't have been sort of pushed in that direction.
Absolutely, because I've started this book a million times. But
Yeah.
you get, again, like I said earlier, I have to make a living. I'm not a rich guy. I'm not a rich kid. I didn't come
Right.
from money. So, I'd get started on the project, and then all of a sudden I'd get a bunch of photo shoots, and it'd be sit over there, and 2 years later, oh yeah, and that happened a million times. This time I started it. Jean, my girlfriend, read, set me up with pages which I didn't know, anything about, and I have a template that I can just start building, writing the stories, and so I'm pretty excited, to be honest. I don't
It,
have a name for it, you know.
well, from my perception and how I see you, and the era that you came through, and with all of the Bay Area artists, especially, is you're kind of a rock and roll historian, rock and roll Hall of Fame kind of photographer in that era and around those bands, especially that it if nowhere else, at least the Bay Area, because people in the Bay Area love their Bay Area,
Yeah.
love the bands and all of the stuff that's came out of there. And it's something that a lot of people, at least in the Bay Area, would love to have. Yeah, look at this. This all started Bill Graham. Look at this. You know,
Well, thank you, because that's true. I just did a page yesterday, Mac Mall. You never heard of them,
no,
Mac Mall. But they're and the thing about this, my book, and about what I do, it's all over the place. There's Buck Owens, and then there's Tupac and Biggie Smalls, and Mitzi Gaynor. I don't know if she'll be in the book, but I mean, it's from one extreme to the other. Instead of the guy that did the Grateful Dead or the guy that did the punk scene, and like, yeah, I just did a page, a guy named Mac Mall. Mac Mall in the early '90s, hip hop was just beginning. Mac Mall, Tupac, Ray Love, who was in the book, the guy with the mask. Remember him, and
yeah,
the flag.
right,
Uh, Ray Love and Mac Dre. Those were the guys that put the Bay Area hip hop on the map. Like Tupac directed Mac Mall's video. We directed Ray Love's video. So there's all of that. That the guys that love Y&T, they don't know anything about these guys. But if they go to the book, and they go, whoa, that'll be really cool for them to learn, you know. And the hip hop guy reads it, and he sees a story about Bill Graham. You're Bill Graham, but how much did Bill Graham have to do with Tupac? Nothing, I mean, probably. But so there's all this cool cross referencing that I think people will really enjoy. Plus I got UFO and people from all over the world. Joe Walsh, and with
yeah.
Cleveland Indian hat.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, while you mentioned that, let me pull this Joe Walsh. Do you have a story behind the Joe Walsh?
That's a
Uh,
cute story. Joe Walsh, when I was growing up in Cleveland, Kent State was about 25-minute drive from our house. So we all had fake IDs. So at 16 years old, you'd go to the bar and drink and shoot pool. And we'd go to a place called JB's in Kent. And the James Gang was the house band. And that was Joe Walsh.
are you
Yeah,
serious?
so we'd go watch,
Gee,
right? And go, oh, they were phenomenal. And then
right.
when they left, the Raspberries took over. Remember the
Yeah,
Raspberries? Then
yeah.
when the Raspberries left, um, oh, I forgot. Some other band that was really cool came out of there. So Joe Walsh is indirectly a Clevelander, right? I don't know if he's from Cleveland, but he's a Clevelander. James Gang, the Cleveland band. So this was with the B.R. Cohn charity. He played, came in and played for the concert, and then Bruce would have a golf tournament afterwards, and everyone who wanted would golf. And so I'd go around with the golf cart and take groups of the foursomes. And if there's somebody cool, I'd take a cool shot of them, And so we pull up, and there's Joe Walsh in his goofy shirt. Looks like Rodney Dangerfield, doesn't he? And the
He
clothing
does. He
from
does.
from neck down with the red pants and the goofy shirt. And I look at him, and I got my Cleveland Indian hat on, and Joel's from Cleveland. And the night before, he and I were, it was 97, and he and I were shooting the breeze about the Indians were in the World Series. We're talking World Series the night before at drinking afterwards. So I turned to my 10-year-old son, Case, you're 12, 97, you're 12. And I go, man, I wish I could get Joe and to wear a shot of him on my Indians hat, and from the mouth of babes, my son Casey looks at me and goes, well, why don't you just ask him? And I went, oh, hey, Joe, will you, can I get a shot of you with my Indians hat? And he goes, sure, man, in that Joe Walsh voice,
Right.
And boom, I get it. And I get this crazy, bizarre, semi-twisted photo of Joe Walsh.
Right.
And no one in the world has a photo like that of Joe Walsh. There's a
No.
whole bunch of photos in my book that no one in the world has a photo like that. No one. Barry Bonds going like this, and
Right.
and it's. But the point that I'm unassuming. I'm not pushy. I'm aggressive. I'm a Dago from Cleveland. There's that New York sort of people think I'm from New York. My personality, but there's also the side of me that I don't go past a line of respect. So I
Right.
never would have thought of myself, hey, will you wear my hat? Hey, what? All right. And of course he did. You know what I mean? So that's the cute story from the mouth of babes.
Right.
Yeah.
So with all of your photos, and we talked about this last time, if somebody wanted to get a print, and I think after we did the show, a couple of guys called up and
Yeah.
said, hey, can I get any photo that you have
Yeah.
out of all your negatives? If somebody wants to get a purchase or to buy one of your photos, they can.
Yeah.
And when the book comes out, they can probably call you up and look on your website, and you'll, for a small fee, sign your name and autograph
Yeah.
the books.
Yeah. I don't know how that'll work at the time. I don't know about a small fee. Um,
Well,
yeah, I'm gonna have I'm gonna be one of the women from League of Our Own. I'm gonna go get a table somewhere and pay $10 for Pat Johnson autograph. You know what I mean? For that
that
toilet
would be
paper.
funny. That would be funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you've got so many photos, and you can find a lot. No, there's no way you can get all of your photos on your website, but
No, no,
there's a
no. My
good,
website's got just a tip of the iceberg.
yeah, man. At some point, I think what would be fun is to, especially later after you get your books completed and getting it ready, it'd be fun to visit some of the odd shots that nobody's ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if some of them, the people you have the shots of, would they get upset if you showed them looking goofy?
You mean like Barry Bonds going like this?
Right. Yeah. Like that.
I'm expecting him to be contacting me when the book comes out. You see the
Perfect.
one of Linda? Did you see the one of Linda Perry? I know you haven't seen that one. Oh my
Uh-uh.
God. You know who Linda Perry is, right?
I don't.
Okay, she was in Four Non Blondes, and then she became an LA. She became one of the top producers and songwriters in the business. She number one hits for Pink, for
Oh.
right, right, and she was
Oh,
married to Melissa Gilbert for like 3 years. And I have this photograph of her on a white background backstage at the Bammies, and she's like pulling her butt apart, like you know what I mean? It's like whoa, but that's okay. The thing is they're funny, and they're not insulting. I don't want to insult anybody. I don't want to insult
right.
them at all. They're
Right.
just cool, rare photographs that, Barry Bonds, the year the year before they had the Giants photographer. They were getting Barry Bonds for the cover of the Giants magazine, and the guy took one snap, one click, and Barry Bonds looks at him and goes, "You're done, pal," and got up and walked away. Right? And so Barry Bonds was not known to be a nice guy, and so
Right.
the Giants, I'd worked for them as an independent doing cool stuff, and they called me the next year and said we're doing a poster, full size poster giveaways. You remember those things, the full size with the,
Right.
the, the inches on it, and
Yeah.
would you? We want you to come and shoot Barry Bonds because we figure you can get it because of my personality. So I set up a big studio in the bowels of Candlestick, and he comes out, and he's not really a nice guy, but his mother was there, and this is part of the story that's with the Barry Bond shot. And so I get his mother going, hey Pat, her name's Pat too. I go, Pat, help me with Barry. So his mother gets in, and now Barry loosens up like crazy. I get 4 rolls of film out of the guy. The last guy got one picture and he walked out. And in
Oh,
the middle of all this, Barry Bonds goes like this, and makes this funny, kind of for his mom. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Bang,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. See?
yeah, instead of me making fun of him and belittling him, it's a really sweet little story, you know,
Yeah.
about his
Yeah.
mom, and
Yeah.
that's, I, as you've been in my studio, and there's the guy in your band who's all uncomfortable. We talked about, and I'll find him, and I'll start messing with him. So
Right.
I'm pretty good with that. They're messing with him, um, and
You've been really good today, Pat.
yeah, to loosen, I mess with the guy to loosen him up, and all of a sudden you get the photo. So I figure, part of my thing about being a photographer is knowing the camera before digital. You had to know the camera because people were paying for film. Know the lighting, know this, know that, get to have the eye for the shot, but also let my personality get in there and diffuse them. So
Right.
no one has a bad time. I can't remember one person other than like these, the few I talked about. And those weren't even in those. If they were in my studio, I'd have had them on my turf, and they'd have been. But I was on their turf, sort of.
Right.
The guys I mentioned, and so I let my personality bring it out, and That's how I got Barry Bonds. The other guy got one picture. I got 4 rolls of film, and I could have got more, but I was done. You know,
Oh, man.
yeah,
That's a great story.
yeah, and that's the story that goes in the book.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
So,
and
again, I want a copy of the book, and I want to come back and do this maybe, in a month and see where you're at, show more
yeah,
photos,
yeah,
because this gives me something. And we've been at it for an hour. And just like always, you have great stories.
and you're like the psychiatrist saying, "Oh, your hour's up."
Yeah.
Bob Newhart. We're going to call you Bob Newhart.
Okay. Okay. Time's up. No, no, but this is good. So, uh, for photos, you can reach Pat at patjohnson.com and look at all photos. You can get prints. You'll print up pictures,
Yep.
and then we'll get more stories, because I think that really what sells everything is the story behind it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because you can, like, I was into photography for a little bit when I was a kid, and somebody bought me an Ansel Adams book. And even though the the picture was cool, the story about how he got that photo is what
Right.
I read, because it was, oh, he stood out there for 8 hours waiting for just the right light. And I'm thinking, holy crap.
Yeah.
So that's what makes the photos interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. My brother John, he's the one that really said you got to get the stories in because that's what
Yeah.
makes it special. You
Yeah.
know, the photographs are really wonderful. It's hopefully the people like them, and I'm really proud of them. And I could put up a photo because when I first started thinking about this years ago, I wanted it to be like a Richard Avedon book, just this really great portrait, you know, Gray Slick, 1943 or whatever, you know what I mean? But then when I look back at it, because of my personality and because of the situations I've been in, like the Jackson's riot or how Grace, like you say, that my version of what we talked about as the Ansel Adams is how I did the Grace Slick shot. You know,
Right.
some of them there's some of them are kind of I just kind of explained. You know, I used infrared film uh, rated at 400 and underdeveloped. That's all it really will say on it. It'll tell them how I did the shot, because there's
Yeah.
not really a great funny story necessarily to go with everything. But I'm still trying to keep it interesting so that, like Gray Slick, how I took the photo is exactly like how you read Ansel Adams stood there for 8 hours while I had Ken James lay on his back and blow smoke out real gently, and he couldn't blow it hard, and you had to wait, blah. The same
Right.
thing, same
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah. That's great. While you're talking, I'm thinking, man, you could do like a volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, because as you go through all of your work, you'll find more and more and more stuff that would be cool.
Well, I thank you. I have a whole hundreds, at least 100 phenomenal blues portraits, and there's only 4 or 5 in this one. I have like Will Durson. I mentioned, but we were starting to do it, and Will got something happened to Will. But I have all these comedians from the '78 when San Francisco was the punk of comedy. So I have all that, you know. And now, as you see, I'm pulling out all these bizarre. They're not like, they're not like powerful, gray, slick portraits,
Right.
but they're still phenomenal backstage, weird little pieces that are buried in the, buried in, that I could do a book just strictly called, backstage,
Yeah.
just, fun little. They're not really the fine art shot of Gray Slick with the smoke or whatever, but they're still really cool shots.
Yeah. Yeah. They're great.
So, but
Absolutely great.
book one will be nice. It's at 69 years old.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear you doing this and looking forward to it. And I hope you get it done quickly. I don't want to push you, but I'm going to push you.
Oh
Get it.
yeah, well, I'm almost done writing it. You know,
Nice.
and then
Yeah,
I got, what did you say?
I said, get it done, Pat.
Oh yeah, yeah, no shit. Oh no, yeah. So I'm almost done with the wording. I've got somebody that's editing them. Now we've got 2 people potentially to do the graphics.
Okay.
So I got to come up with a name, and then once it's done, then I'll get someone to write the foreword, and then go from there, and then hopefully sell it to a publisher.
Yeah. I think, is it possible these days to publish something on your own,
Yeah.
or but you may not get the same kind of distribution and stuff that you might want through a publisher. I
Exactly. If I don't get a publisher, so be it. I'm still going to do it. But
Yeah,
I'm wondering how much a book would cost.
boy, yeah, I'm
You know,
anxious. That would be fun to know.
yeah, I mean, because, this gray slick shot, it's color, it's gorgeous
Yeah.
color. You
Yeah.
know, do I, it'll cost me a lot more money to put color in than black and white. And do I turn this into a black and white? No.
No.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like the blue background behind you right now. It's really beautiful, you know. Uh,
Thanks.
yeah, it is. It's really cool, but it wouldn't look good as much as the black and white. And
Right.
the thing about this, I know we're ending right now, but I
Yeah.
sit and babble and babble, and I always hang, when we're done, I always go, "Did I just babble like for like like a fool? Did anyone get anything out of this? I have no idea." Me just telling my stories about baseball or whatever.
No. Well, this is what's happened since I started doing this, and I know people have been commenting, and I started to watch, but I couldn't comment or follow along on the comments because I'm focused on you. And after I finish, I'll go through and look at all the comments.
Comments
Yeah, people comment on the live stream,
right
so
now. People are commenting.
yeah, they said, "Hey Pat, come on." Hey, no. No,
Where's the f bombs?
yeah, right. uh yeah, so Kimberly Gold had a couple of comments. Michael Hatfield had a comment. um and a couple of my friends had some comments. So people have been tuning in and making comments.
Will I be able to see those comments later?
You can, if you go to my Facebook page, they all stay there. I don't take them down.
Okay, that's where I'll look at it. Yeah,
Yeah. And then,
Kimberly's adorable. I love Kimberly Gold.
yeah, let me look back. Okay, so fun show, and I think she also said something about she had a story about the Manute Bowl thing. Or I keep thinking the Warriors, something about the Warriors.
Yeah, I
Um,
love Kim. She's really talented.
so anyway, so those people tuned in, and a couple of people have mentioned to me over these past 8 weeks, rather than tune into all of the usual TV shows or news, that they've been watching my shows. And
Yeah.
like Tom Politzer, I'm going to have on tomorrow nights with Tower of Power. He called me and said, "You know what I do? I put on one of your shows and I cook dinner."
Oh, nice.
Right. So just the conversation and the stories, people are enjoying them. I mean, not hundreds of thousands of people, which would be cool. But, there's a couple of dozen people that have been saying, "Hey, we like what you're doing. We enjoy listening to the shows." And it's kind of like old school radio,
Yeah,
but
we're having fun.
yeah,
I don't care if I make a dime off of it or a million people watch it. I'm having fun shooting the shit with you.
right, exactly. And that's the whole purpose of doing this, is just talking. And at the same time, if you have a photo and somebody says, "Hey, can I buy it?" Well,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, they can go to, and they can email me, pat@patjohnson.com. How easy is
Yeah.
that? You know,
Yeah. That's easy.
yeah.
And hopefully you know what I'd like to do with you one time is sit down with your buddies, Roger and Joel.
Okay.
Just,
Roger, I grew up with him. My brother was married his sister, and this is how long I've known him. When I first met Dixie, his sister, she bought me the new Who album, My Generation. That was how
oh,
I
yeah.
I've known Roger since we were 14 years old, and Joel's been my buddy from Epic Records from 1975. The Shookman, I love him. He
You
and
know,
I did a ton of stuff together.
yeah, he called me. Because he asked, sent me a friend request in which he had more than five. I had to wait for him to kick somebody out in order to let me
I got Joel. I love him.
in. Then he called me and we talked for like an hour.
Oh,
And it
that's
was
Joel.
so it was like talking to you. I would love to just sit and listen to you guys tell stories to each other.
Well, guess where Joel's from?
I don't know. Cleveland?
Yes, Cleveland. I'm a West Side boy, and he's an East Side boy.
Oh man, it's funny, man, because he was a hoot. It was
Oh, he's
great
a hoot.
talking to
Yeah,
him. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's
All
real.
right. Well, it is time. We've put in a really good show. We showed more of your pictures, and I started the show kind of going just because it was one of those kinds of days. But I feel way better because we had this hour together.
Well, kiss my ass. I was all excited. Oh boy, Jeff Noose. That's my day's made. I'm getting to see Jeff Noose. Yeah, I mean, the hell does
No,
that mean? Oh,
that
Pat
isn't what
Johnson.
no, that
I'm
isn't
trying
what
to
I
not
meant.
swear for my grandchildren, but blank you. No, I'm
No,
teasing.
but that isn't what I
Leave an
meant.
opening and I'm taking it. You know that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was just saying, uh,
I had the blast today too.
yeah, and the last time I think we sort of started the same way, talking
Yeah,
about how shit was, and then by the end we were laughing and we kind of got past it, you
I can
know.
barely get it together to go to the bank today. It's just how lethargic this whole pandemic is making everybody.
Yeah, 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 me too. And this, I don't have to go anywhere to do these interviews, and sometimes it feels like, oh man, I got to get up and go get ready for that thing. And
I wasn't going to come to my studio. I was going to do it in my house. I was just too lethargic, and then at 2 o'clock I drove over here and set it up. Put it on my desk, set it up. What's that mean?
I'm glad you did, because seeing all those photos and stuff in the background, you've got something interesting to look at. You got the Barry Bonds thing, and I don't know who's the picture of right behind you, right
Elvin,
behind your head. Who is
Elvin.
that? Oh, Elvin. That's right. I think you
Then
showed.
these I didn't take them, but who else has an autographed Marx Brothers,
Oh, what?
autographed Groucho, autographed Three Stooges?
Oh, oh man,
Autograph. It's Curly Joe, but it's still an autographed Three Stooges.
man. That's cool.
My girl Jean got me this for my birthday, 1950s national musical instrument, you know, Gibson, favorite of the stars. Is that cool
Whoa.
or what?
Yeah.
1954, you know. Jimmy Wakely, Joe Bianco, John Collins, well, Les Paul and Mary Ford, Herb Ellis, Barney Kessel,
Oh,
Frank
man.
Vadnal. Who are these people? I mean, some of them we know.
Yeah.
Tony Mottola.
Coming to your studio, I don't is almost like going to a museum in
Yeah,
some ways.
what's the silly stuff around?
Yeah, and the pinball machine and the mannequins and the dummies and all the different stuff you got
Yeah,
hanging
yeah,
around.
yeah. I love it. It's a Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
All
I
right,
never
Pat.
want you go to these the big time photographers and you walk in there and they're all white and
Yeah,
pristine.
yeah,
Five of their beautiful portraits. Ah.
yeah.
Oh,
Right,
I want it to be mine. Me, you walk in and immediately you're comfortable. You're
right.
not you're not overpowered by the presence of Pat Johnson. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
guys, you come in, it's like, oh yeah, all right, I'm home. I
yeah.
I'm comfortable.
You know what I liked the most about the old South Park studio was the floor.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
love that old beat the shit gray floor or whatever it was. Just it felt like I was on an old ship or something.
yeah. And then the way the ceiling was curved like that
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah, it was like an old pirate ship.
yeah, yeah. It was cool. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to sign off. I'm going to sign off. Thank you for coming back and doing it again. And I want to come back and visit you again in a few weeks down the road and see how far you've gotten on the book and show more pictures.
Yeah, one of the pictures, my buddy Raul Brody. Do you know Raul?
I don't.
Righteous Raul, Rick and Ruby. Remember all those names? Well, they came in like 1982, and it was Rick of Rick and Ruby and Raul, and their whole band, Mary, all these people, you know the names. And I forgot about this, but he told me to go look it up, and I saved this. He had a thing called The Stupids, and the famous photo I have is him and Rick with ice cream cones on their nose, But then people it pulled out, and I have a photograph that I'm going to print here soon of like 12 people, three or four women, and they all got ice cream cones on their forehead. It's really funny. I'll print that for the next one.
Yeah,
I'll probably
perfect.
post it on my Facebook page in the next week or so.
Yeah, but what we do is when we come back and you show all of them and then tell a story that makes it more interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
listen, I've taken up too much of your time. Thanks, man. Be
Great.
safe.
Thanks, Pat. As always, it's a pleasure to hang out with you and hear the stories. I'll do it forever.
All right. I'm going to go watch it and see what kind of a buffoon I made myself, but that's all right.
It was good. It
All
was
right. Thanks, man.
all right. See you next time.
You know what? If I cared, I wouldn't do it. I am me, and I really don't ultimately don't care. So, see you, man.